Good morning, everybody. Friday's here, the end of a pretty wild week, actually, considering it's been up and down and cold and hot and crazy and busy and then not so busy, and some people complaining about hay fever already. That's a good sign. It means spring is here. I mean, I know you don't like the sneezing and the sinus and the bullshit, but it's a good sign, trust me. And Ben's cat, there's Hopkins. Very nice.
Oh,
There's Hopkins. Yeah.
There's
Nice.
Hopkins.
Hopkins has been on. This little fucker's been on all the calls this week. He finds ways just to get there. I don't even fight him anymore.
So he's this is his new thing, huh?
Absolutely loves it. Yeah, I've had some evening calls throughout the week, and he's just there. He's absolutely there. Trying to make like professional, serious points, and it's like this little white cat, like, hey, what's going on?
Shame the one cat that could jump up and get onto the call has died.
Your cat.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Leigh-Ann. A little bit of a downer straight off the bat there.
Wow.
Sorry
Nice.
to hear that.
Yeah, I had to put her down 2 weeks ago.
Was that the one that kept
So
showing
now
us
I'm just done. Yes, the black and white one.
showing us their asshole? Yeah. Mm.
How have the
shame.
other six dealt with it?
No, so I'm only down to 3. I counted the other day. Let me tell you,
Only?
1, 2, 3.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, just down to 3. The dog's gone. I'm down to 3 cats. I don't
my
even
God.
have to run 2 loads of dishwasher of cat bowls during the week anymore. It makes it I get through all the bowls in a week.
That's incredible.
Things have changed. Gave away
don't
my
know
dog
what-
box yesterday.
You've got
mean,
empty nest syndrome. This is what's happening with you.
They grow up so fast.
And they grow up, they leave the house, and then it's just you, a widow, just a widow.
Winter's going to be tough. I'm going to have to get like an enormous fluffy dog. How about that?
Yeah, do it.
Complete opposite of what I had with Joey, which was like little sticks and a cocktail sausage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
you
chipolata.
must get a big Bouvier.
Or like a Bernese or something.
No,
Bouvier?
those Bernese dogs have got big attitude. No, you want to get a Bouvier because it's basically like having a gay man living with you, but he just can't cook. But like a big,
Oh no, that for me would be an Afghan.
okay.
Yeah, those are also
Well,
a bit. Yeah. Huh.
it's
Yeah.
all,
But
yeah.
let me be clear. It's an Afghan hound, not
Yeah.
just an
Oh.
Afghan.
Because
I
right
thought
now
you
meant-
there's so many Afghans looking for homes right now that you
sorry,
might
yeah.
dirt cheap. Really.
I thought you
Although
were doing
the Taliban might help you, as Ben has said, to bounce back. Like, okay, life is beginning and end. Let's get back to it, and then they crack the whip, and then you just get back to it.
Yeah.
So it might be, you might actually want an Afghan that's executed people to just get you back.
That kind.
back on it.
It's a fair point, guys. Don't knock it until you've at least given it 3 to 4 minutes.
Well, I believe Afghans can be made to work hard if you're prepared to put up with a little bit of terrorism and the odd bit of religious fanaticism. It can be a very helpful.
What's like the latest there? Is the Taliban now like fully like at the crease? Is there peace talks, or they just straight back to where they were?
To use your analogy, they've been at the crease. They've already scored about 25 runs, and
So they're in.
of only a few balls. I mean, consider the Americans have really given them all the equipment. They are massacring people they don't like. They've basically gone through the lists that the Americans left there, found all the people who collaborated with the Americans, and now they're killing them. So
Okay.
it's going really well. I mean, it's always been a wonderful place, Afghanistan, and now it's even more wonderful. There's fresh
What
rubber.
will it take to bowl them out?
Oh,
Sure.
George W. Bush and another $3 trillion or whatever of military expenditure.
But Gareth, I don't want to make this about the Afghans again, but so why was America there? Was it just to guard the poppy fields?
No, there was this terrible thing that actually happened on tomorrow 20 years ago, which was rather an important geopolitical event. 9/11, as people have begun to call it. And that's not because William Shatner used to narrate that terrific show where you'd call that number if you had a problem, and then the cops would come. It was it was a day which I would say has been etched in my memory, my living memory, because I have a memory of history, which I like to refer to every now and then, but by memory of actual life experiences of real events. And having been at the World Trade Center in 2000, the year before, on this day, I was actually there a year and a day before the towers came down. And it was the first time I'd ever been to New York. And I went to the top of the World Trade Center and I got to see the view from up there. And exactly a year and a day later, they came crashing down. And I'll never forget where I was, and I'm sure you won't either. But America was pretty cut up about that because until then, they had not dealt with a domestic event of such gravity and importance and devastation. I mean, forget the numbers of people who were killed by those buildings coming down. And by the people who were in the planes, obviously, who were taken out at the same time. But you remember those harrowing pictures and videos of people jumping for their lives, or because they just realized they'd rather jump and die that way than jump because they'd breathed in smoke. And it's just one of the most horrible events that I can recall. And America recalls it that way, if not much more personally than I do. And what happened was that America just decided there and then, fuck this. We're not going to take this lying down. We're the world's superpower, and we're going to hit back. And they hit back by, first of all, Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility right up front. They were like, it was us. We're very proud of this. Look what we did. And so America went after them, and they were hiding. Osama bin Laden and the rest of the Al-Qaeda leadership were hiding in Afghanistan. And the Afghanistan territory was controlled then by these religious fanatics called the Taliban, who are extremists and fundamentalists in every sense of the word. And we've been watching them battle it out ever since. But they did get bin Laden just a couple of years ago, and they did start taking out various aspects of that terror group. Of course, they spread on their own anyway. But the big problem is that if you, as Condoleezza Rice said in an interview that I heard a couple of weeks ago, the great achievement of the war in Afghanistan, which Barack Obama called the good war, and he called the Iraq war the bad war. It's besides the point. Condoleezza Rice said the good thing about the Afghan war is that it stopped terror from coming back home to America. And it did that. Undeniably, it did that. America has not had a terror attack from an outside force since 9/11.
But now Biden has armed terror and told them where we live.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, because he's a doddering, old, senile man with no idea of whether he's coming or going, halfway up, halfway down, a teapot or a hockey stick. Couldn't tell the difference. He bends over and forgets whether he's done it to fart, to shit, or to sit down. Has no idea.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Okay, well, thanks. Yeah, I did need the reminder. I think there's a new documentary coming out around 9/11. I think it's on National Geographic or something. I saw a billboard for it the other day.
Carl says Netflix. He
Netflix.
says it's brilliant.
Absolutely.
The USA broke so many laws.
Well, now we have, Keenan saying, GC, you're so smart, yet you still believe the mainstream media narrative about 9/11. It was an inside job, brother. Oh, God. All right, here we go. And the next thing he's going to be telling me about anti-vaxxing. And then after that, we're going to be talking about how, here in South Africa, the Broederbond is still in control. And white monopoly capitalism. I don't know, Keenan. I mean, you believe what you will. If you really think that America and the people in power in America would do that to themselves, something that incredible, that outrageous. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you. If you really think that that's the possibility here. All I know is geopolitically it changed everything because I was studying international politics at the time. Simon says, I lost my job. I lost my job that day. I started my own business the next day. I'm celebrating 20 years on Sunday. Whoop, whoop.
Oh,
well
there
done.
we go. There's a nice Friday slant. Nice.
There we go.
Alex rises out
Turn
of the
this
ashes.
around. Turn this
Nice
around.
job.
Nicely. Yeah.
Simon's on top of this. Very good. All right. Anyway, so there's a little bit of background. I always like to just think about 9/11. So thanks, Ben, for giving us the opening to that because
That's what I do, Gareth. That's what I do.
Actually,
no-
Ben, it was me with the Afghan hound.
Ah,
Sorry,
okay.
sorry, not sorry.
Take the credit, both of you. It's very good work. Anyway, Tracy says, Leigh-Ann, get in touch with Pug Rescue South Africa. They have some adorable pugs up for adoption. You already snore, so you won't hear it.
I'll have to. Shame, Tracy. I love you to bits. But the problem is short snout breeds are a no for me. I lost a staffy that way from not being able to get enough oxygen, and I don't like to see them suffer. But being a pug rescue, I may consider it. But yes,
basically, we're trying to find you a furry husband.
Get the Bouvier. Trust me, it'll change your life. They're flatulent as all hell, but they look like
well, they're even more so.
Yeah, they look like those 90s gay characters in movies when they first started making them more mainstream.
All right, so over the top.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, so a couple of things to get through today. We've got a really interesting show for you. I mean, we would hope that there isn't a day where we don't have that. But Mbulelo wants to tell us about a couple of predictions he has for the spring or summer of 21-22.
This is going to go badly.
So bring it on, Mbulelo. What are your predictions?
A lot of relationships are going to be ending because what I've noticed is a lot of partners haven't kept up with the workout.
Great opener.
And yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, I've seen some of my friends, sort of girlfriends and boyfriends, for the first time now in about 2 years because of lockdown. And definitely people are going to be moving on because that does happen. Looks do matter. So thoughts and prayers to most people in relationships between the ages of 25 and 40. It's going to be a brutal, at least 15 to 20% relationships over. Definitely happening.
Do you think that is a lot of that the result of lockdowns and people who just got lazy?
Well, if you've just been with your partner, you know, it's almost like a child. You watch them like, oh, wow, okay, they're eroding. And then you get out there and, oh, my God, look at her. You know what I mean? Like, and we're allowed out now.
Yeah, but I mean, Mbulelo, don't you think lockdown has already ruined so many relationships? Do you think some of them are still going?
I think that's a good point. That's a good point, Ben. I just think this will go on to accelerate it. So not only was I right about my partner being a nightmare in the lockdown, now look at that person who's kept out their workout routine. Whammy! By summertime, it's a whole new world. So I just want to say thoughts and prayers on this Friday for those people that are about to have their whole life changed.
Nice. Ruth's giving you some of your own medicine here, saying, "I thought you didn't believe in crystal balls."
I believe in crystals. I don't know where the one in here is. Crystal balls, very different. I can quickly grab it.
Well, on the issue of
crystal balls, of course, was Mbelelo's last girlfriend in 2001.
Crystal balls.
This is the kind of energy if you are about to have your heart broken because you didn't do push-ups and sit-ups for 6 months. So just namaste.
Here's some relationship advice from Tracy. She says, "Big dogs, big shits. Pugs are super polite and they shit along the fence out of sight, not in the middle of the yard. That's equal to a man leaving the toilet seat down." Shock.
Sure.
Interesting.
I didn't know that.
Important.
Very interesting. I like that. The amount of times that I stood in Joey's obnoxious shits in the middle of my way to the car are countless.
Spiteful ones. Some animals, like my parents' dogs, they would shit on the main route on purpose because they want you to spread their shit around. They want you to take some home with you. Have a takeaway. Over 60s are apparently getting happier, but young people are more miserable. Now, why would that be?
It's because because the young people are more miserable. The oldies are going, ha ha, fuck you. They're vindictive, those old people. They really are. Because the thing is, like, they know that they're browning around the edges and they're past their prime. And they're like, at least we had a youth. You fuckers have got nothing.
Yeah, because you've been locked down for like 2 years.
Yeah.
What happened to wasn't Cyril meant to announce like a level 2 or level 1 or some shit today? Anyway, tell us why old people are happier than young people, Leigh-Ann. This is good.
Again, it's got a lot to do with COVID. And guys, like, COVID really messed with very young people, so like adolescents and all the no socialization, and I mean that's a really important part of their lives and development at that stage. And they spend more time on digital media, and that means depression immediately if you're scrolling through what your friends are doing and what all of the Instagrammers are doing.
Right.
Women just aren't having a blast either. They were more likely to have been furloughed. When schools shut down, the mothers took on most of the responsibility for homeschooling. Women tend to have more friends and more socializing than men. So job losses were bigger amongst women. So it was like a 12% drop in satisfaction for women during the pandemic. And in the meantime, the over 60s are thriving, especially because they got their vaccines first. So they're getting out and about and all happy and feeling healthy. And also because they've just got this wiser outlook on life. I know
they've practiced what it feels like to be retired for a little while too, whereas young people didn't know what it was like to be retired in their 20s until recently. And I keep joking about it, that there's some element of this lockdown where people have been working from home, maybe working less hours. They've got routines. They wake up, they go make some coffee, that kind of thing. These are things that old people have been doing for a while.
Yeah,
young people
and
were
also,
rushing.
As your time horizons grow shorter, you kind of start investing in things that are more important, like relationships and things that give you pleasure instead of just staying alive when it comes to surviving COVID and making money.
I'd also think that like most oldies love a bit of structure, and they love a bit of like, okay, well, I just need to do this, and COVID's given them this. I know, like my mother her life hasn't changed at all. Of course, they live in a very small town with one main road, so she couldn't give two shits what's going on in the outside world. And I think the fact that she's doing, and a lot of people like to conform as well, so if they can do what they're told, and it's in their interest, as it keeps being told to them, then they love it. And like the thing is, then there's no pressure to go out and try to be young. You can just be old. I think a lot of old people actually love that.
I do feel sorry for the very very young kids, for example, who've missed out on, like, now it'll be going on almost 2 years of school, in-person education and all that kind of thing.
They've missed out on talking coherently as well.
Yeah, correct. Because you can't even, if you imagine learning phonics, imagine learning phonetics, imagine learning how to pronounce words and say things properly and move your lips properly when you're behind a mask. And those kids are going to you'd be like, what, have you got Down syndrome? No, that's how I learned to say it.
I mean, they can just mumble rap.
We're about to have been like deluged by the next generation of mumble rap. It's going to be how people actually. Can you imagine like music in 20 years or 15 years? How fucking horrible it's going to be.
Instead of people standing up and like they did before, where they pretend they have a microphone in their hand, they're going to put their hands in front of their mouths when they rap.
Yeah. But I mean, listen, I can't understand a lot of the language anyway, and that's just because people are unintelligent, not because they're inarticulate. But the reality is, there are also old people who are laughing because, as Ben puts it, like they've had their fun, and their fun wasn't encumbered by all this nonsense, right? And they also didn't have social media to make them feel bad, as Leigh-Ann points out. So older people are like, I'm having a great time. Nothing's changed for me. I'm going to continue to have a good time until they put me in the grave. And you young people, you're fucked. That's basically what they're saying. You're fucked. And it's great. True. I like watching this. You see them having a good time. It's good.
They had all the drugs in the 60s. Just all of the drugs in their face. Nobody said anything. And I drove a Beetle, and then I had a VW Shaggin' Wagon. And you kids have to stay at home and look at TikTok. Hilarious.
You also start, especially as a woman in her 40s, each year you start giving less fucks. And it's a fantastic feeling.
Literally less fucks. You're literally putting out less.
Yeah, you would say no one's having a blast.
No, I think, for a lot of women, their sexual lives peak in their 40s. Trust me, it's not for it's in my case, it is for a lack of trying. But if it
Okay.
was if it was there, yeah, it would be a different story.
So I wonder if people compared the number of pumps they've had in the year to previous years, whether we'd also see a decrease. These are the kind of studies universities should be doing, not this nonsense about, what kind of clout and influence you can have on social media. I want to know how number of pumps per year. I want the graph, and I want to see 2017, 18, 19, because we know that younger people are having way less sex than they've ever had before, right?
Yeah, and
That's
it's
already
definitely to the detriment, no doubt. Because this is like a long-reaching kind of stuff. Because sexual relations or just interaction with people that you desire physically, that's what kind of makes you get through some tough days, or makes you happy in life, or makes you want you to try harder and stuff. You take it away, and everyone's like, "Well, fuck, why do I try anymore? Why am I going to the gym? Why am I trying to buy clothes that look nice?" That's the real social decay right there.
Well said. Whenever somebody's like grouchy and I always say, when was the last time you got laid? Like a lot of people need to hear that question immediately. So Ben, you have nailed it there. Whenever somebody's grouchy, ask them, when was the last time you had the pipe serviced?
Speaking of nailing it, so Mbulelo, before I go, I just want to open up this little Pandora's box here. You're a very Spartan man, and essentially, there's no outward joy that I pick up in your life. Like, what goes on there? Like, do you meet girls on Instagram? Do you have like a bevy waiting for you that in running clubs? Like, what's the deal?
No,
obviously, I don't mean to pry here, and I really don't mean this in a shitty way.
No, you do mean to pry. You do mean to pry, and that's fine. You don't have to do. We don't have to do that. Let's not go down. With all due respect, I don't mean to pry. You do mean to pry, and that's fine. I'm happy to say. You know what? It's quite easy because I grew up in Joburg. So a lot of the girls I was hooking up with when I was younger are either getting divorced or at an age where they're over bullshit. So it's actually been perfect. It's really a good time to be my age and alive. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I can't see you going on a date because you would
scrutinize.
You would scrutinize what they would order at a restaurant. You would hate the fact you'd have to go to a restaurant.
No, I have a nice house. Don't worry. Just come over.
Do you have a broadcast list, and then you just send out a message? I just got back from my run. I'm feeling fit as fuck. I can give you a proper seeing to. Who's around? Or do you geolocate? Do you just send a pin and then you see who's around? What do you do?
Come round. Let's have a blast.
Yeah.
The secret is never get them to meet each other. If you want to live the life I'm living, is not a broadcast list, but there are people who everyone should be getting laid at least once a month. Is all I'm saying. At least, at the very least.
Once a month?
No. Especially when I'm back in Joburg, that is one place where I'm not too worried.
Once a month,
going okay.
That's too little.
At least, no, I'm saying at least. At least.
Right, well, I'm glad you.
I'm glad of pride. I'm glad of pride. Good on you.
We're peeling off the layers of the onion here. We'll eventually find out all the details here. We'll get to the bottom of this. Trust me.
Always have a system, is what I say. So you need always in sales they call it a pipeline. In every part of your life, you need to make sure that you're never scrambling at these times. So no, I try and keep a roster.
It's hugely important. Do not underestimate the power of sex, basically, is the message for this morning. Ben, thanks very much. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, have a good weekend, all.
You too. Cheers, Ben. Bye-bye. There's Ben Karpinski, everybody. Or Ben Karperinski, as some people have said. So, Mbulelo, I don't want to kind of drop that subject yet because I do think it's important. And Ben brought up something which I think is a huge motivation in some people's lives. Think about it this way. You've got a couple of things you could be motivated by, right? Your health, but that's a tough one because if you feel okay, you don't need to excel much past feeling okay. So for many people, that's where they settle. There's money. But even if you're working hard every single day, let's say you're pulling 12 to 14-hour days, if you're, one of those lawyers at those law firms where they work you to death, but they keep promising you'll be a partner. So you're pulling those kinds of hours and you're drafting stuff. And maybe if you're an engineer, you're drawing up plans every single second and you're working in every hour. Or you're a manual laborer and you're like digging holes or whatever, because there's more money and you're working extra hard, you'll get a bonus, whatever it might be. But that's often not enough for people. Then there's the drive and motivation for sex, right, which we've just mentioned now. So for many people, it's like, if I work hard this week, I'll get laid this weekend. And that could be enough to keep those people going. Are there other things that I find like motivation in little things. And I'm obsessed with tidying up and keeping an organized environment around me. That stuff gives me joy. That gives me motivation. Learning is another one where if I'm reading interesting stuff, I've been the biggest nerd in the world this week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I have been watching before I go to sleep at night, documentaries of this woman called Mary Beard. Okay. She's an old English professor of classics. I think she's at Exeter University, and she's really, really amazing. She does these documentaries on ancient Rome, which is something I'll never get bored with that. And I watched one. It was a 4-part series, which I watched one part every night this week, just about how ordinary Romans lived and what kinds of things happened in ancient Rome in terms of politics and the road network and aqueducts and building projects and wars and all that kind of thing. The influence, the lasting influence of the Roman world on our modern world. And this stuff is just, to me, like I was actually excited to get into bed for the last couple of nights just to watch these documentaries. Now, for some people, that would be the height of boredom. And what else? What do you think motivates most people? Because I think I've covered the basics here. It's like, spending time with family and friends is an obvious one. Having a good meal every now and then is another one.
Yeah.
Physical health, sex. What else? What have I left out of the list?
So I think, for me, it's and unfortunately, it's binge watching something on Netflix. Even if it is something that's like a documentary or more intellectual, but a lot of times it's just a series that you've been waiting to come back for waiting for it to come back. Yes, definitely, like knowing that tonight I'm going out for a really good steak. That could drive me for the afternoon and get me through my work.
Yes.
4 o'clock's going to come and I'm going to have a glass of wine. That sort of thing. You have to motivate yourself with these little things.
Yeah,
Isn't
definitely.
that what life's all about?
Yeah. What do you say, Mbulelo?
So a guy called Arthur Schopenhauer has an interesting way, and I'm biased to the sciences. He said he gave mankind the term the will to life, and what he said was genetically everything we do is for the proliferation of the human species. And I tend to go that way. And what he supposes, though, as a philosopher, they go on and on and on about nonsense. But basically
he means fucking, right?
Well, but what he says is it's a really interesting thing. He does mean that. But what he says, and here's where I do agree, is that because the human ego is so big that genetics have to find a way to lie to us, and we call it love. So it must feel like that, but actually, what we need you to do, the genetics are driving you, is make another copy.
Correct.
Everything is motivated by the need to create a copy of yourself. We just have the human ego and whatever. You can go into Freud yourself and speak about the rest, but that's what Schopenhauer says, and I tend to lean that way from a sort of science-based point of view. Everything is about making a baby.
Yeah, your DNA is in charge.
The rest is a lie. Yeah.
I'm going for lunch today with one of my mad uncles and my cousin, and I think that'll be fun. I sometimes wish I could record these things without telling them that I was recording them, because you will not believe the hilarity of some of these conversations. And I mentioned it was my mom's birthday on Monday this week, and we had a lunch for her on Sunday, and we also had family and old family friends there. We had such a happy time, and it was so hilarious. But some of that conversation, if I'd put it into a recording, I don't think a lot of people would believe the kinds of things that are being said there. And it's just high level humor, like not intellectual humor, but hilarious stuff. That's the kind of thing that gives me huge joy too. I'm looking forward to this because I haven't seen this man for probably about 6 to 8 months now, and he is always on top form. And he's a very social creature. So I think it's hit him hard, this lockdown. He hasn't enjoyed any part of it. His life has changed a lot and to the detriment.
You should record him. You can always
Oh.
ask permission afterwards or not.
No, it changes the dynamics, that's the problem.
No,
now.
but without him knowing, I'm saying.
No, that's you can't do that. It's unethical.
Yeah, it's also illegal.
But you can ask him for permission afterwards.
No,
If you can use
maybe
it.
what I'll get him to do is tell a story, and then I'll record it, and then he knows he's being
Yeah.
recorded, and his stories are good anyway, so that'll be fine. Okay, all right. You know what? Let me try and do that today.
Share the love.
I'll share the love. What the hell? Yeah, precisely. I have to also say, like, there are some things people do that I will never ever understand. I've got a very good friend who likes fishing, and I've never ever understood a single thing about fishing. I can see how that would make someone happy, and that would excite them for the weekend. But if you had to punish me, you would put me on a boat and give me a fishing rod and make me sit there.
Have you
And
done
work.
it?
No, no desire. Leigh-Ann, I just know. It's like setting my leg on fire. It as much as some people might find that kinky and interesting, just know it's not for me.
So I went. I've only been fishing once myself, and it was line fishing, which is something completely different to using a rod. You
Is
just
that like line
basically use
dancing, except you make moves like fish?
yes, yeah, Gareth, and that line dancing brings all the milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. The fish just float to the top when you start line dancing.
All right.
So yeah, I did that in the Seychelles in a tiny little boat with a piece of line and some bait. And I caught a mahusa fish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I caught a really big guy straight away.
Nice.
And it was interesting because no one else on the boat there were only there were three of us, so two guys and me. And no one else had caught a fish at all that day. It was just me. But all I was worried about the whole time, because we chucked the fish into the boat, the back of the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like a rowboat with a motor. It was tiny.
Okay.
And all I could hear for the next hour and a half was this fish trying to die and flopping around.
Oh,
and it was so distracting and awful.
So you've never wanted to do it again, right?
No, it was that element for me that got me. And I think, I know that people are going to say, but you can do like a catch and release thing. But to me, that's just creating trauma to the animal anyway.
Because it gets back to its friends and it goes, Jesus, you won't believe what's happened to me.
Yeah, or like how did you develop that cleft palate so quickly?
So
yes, the hook goes through the mouth.
That's very a housemaster of mine in school. He was like besotted with it, right? And the school I went to was just like fishing heaven. It's just like nature heaven. And he used to try and get us all into it. It is the most boring thing in the world, and I do have to say this: it is maybe the whitest thing in the world as well. It is so boring.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of black people who enjoy fishing. I really don't.
Well, I mean, I'm hyperactive, so I could never fish. I can't sit still that long.
Well, that's my problem. I mean, it's the same reason I couldn't do road bicycling, because I think I'd get very bored. And if I'm around boring people, the same thing happens. So look, a lot of people are saying here in the comments that most of fishing is actually drinking, which I get. Duncan says fishing is actually about the brandy and Coke. Go fishing with your funny family members. It's good vibes. You would love fishing, Gareth. Really, Robin? You think so? My husband says Beth is going fishing tomorrow. He needs the reset of being in nature and just quiet. That's either your reset or it isn't. Fishing for some are more fishing the beer bottle than anything else. Yes, absolutely. Fishing is exhilarating, says Jean. Nothing better than catching a yellowtail in Cape Town. Apparently, there's a massive difference, like the difference between mountain biking and road biking, between fishing out at sea and fishing in a dam or a lake.
Yeah.
Huge difference, according to most people. All right. I didn't mean to get into fishing. I didn't really care that much, but I just thought it was an interesting thing because I saw a friend of mine in the US who's just been on a fishing trip, and it's the most exciting thing he's done. I mean, he sent us pictures, and we're like,
yeah.
Anyway, doing an interesting sort of memorial I mentioned that this friend of mine had died last week, and her family have organized a little get together on Sunday for us all to celebrate her life and all the rest of it. And they've arranged for 2 dwarves to be there to greet everyone as they come in.
Okay.
There's a menu of really interesting and lovely food because she really liked good food, even though she was stick thin. And there will be drinks. So it might just end up being quite fun on Sunday. I'm sort of looking forward to it now. Sounds like it could be a bit wild.
Isn't that what it should be? I mean,
Yes.
Wouldn't you want people to have fun at your memorial?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. That's the whole point, right? It's like remembering the good things. All right, let's go into some headlines. Let's take a quick look. There are quite a lot of things that you need to be paying attention to today. And of course, it's No Politics Friday, so we're not going to get into too much of that. First of all, they've made a documentary about Prince Philip, which will be on, including interviews with the royal family. And they discuss Prince Philip. And apparently even the Queen will appear in it, as will their adult grandchildren and other family members. The program was originally conceived to mark Prince Philip's 100th birthday. It will feature interviews filmed before and after his death in April. And the BBC said the historic program would see family members and royal staff offer personal thoughts and reflections. So, I mean, that could be interesting because the Queen doesn't really do interviews. You know, it's not her thing. You can't ask her questions. She'll talk to you if she feels like it, but you can't ask her questions because she's terribly important. Facebook have been accused of allowing sexist job advertising because, you know, there are people who in this world don't have enough problems. So they look for issues like sexism. You know what I'm talking about, right? Leigh-Ann, Mbulelo, you know what's coming, right?
Yeah.
So here we are. Listen to this. Campaign group Global Witness. Now, I can immediately picture, I want you to try and describe the kind of person who works at Global Witness. Mbulelo, you're up first. I know you've got this description. You've got it down. Go.
Is that the name of the company?
Global Witness. It's an NGO. Campaign group.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
No.
All right. Okay.
Go
so
on.
trust fund kid, definitely trust fund kid. Colorful hair, probably 2 earrings, 100%. Not massively overweight, but a paunch, just a little something hanging over the penis. Has not ever been nice to a woman in his whole life, ever. Has never treated a lady the way she deserves to be treated, but is mad at women for not finding him attractive. And he sits in an air-conditioned office and does critical theory on the internet all day long.
Perfect. Leigh-Ann, can you improve on that?
No, I actually can't. That was amazing.
That's pretty much perfect. So, all right. Campaign group Global Witness said it failed to prevent discriminatory targeting of ads, and its algorithm, that's Facebook, of course, is biased in choosing who would see them. In an experiment, almost all Facebook users shown adverts for mechanics were men, while ads for nursery nurses were seen almost exclusively by women. Facebook says its system shows people the ads they might be most interested in, but Global Witness submitted 2 job ads for approval, asking Facebook not to show one to women and the other to anyone over the age of 55. So Facebook's algorithm kicked in and it approved both ads for publication, although it did ask the group to tick a box saying it would not discriminate against these groups. Global Witness pulled the ads before they were published. Facebook said, our system takes into account different kinds of information, and we try and serve people ads they will be most interested in. But Global Witness doesn't want this. They want equal numbers of nursery-maid ads shown to men and to women, and they want equal numbers of ads for mechanics, people who fix cars and appliances, to be shown to women and men. This is because Global Witness are a bunch of fucking stupid morons.
But you know what's sexist?
I don't know.
The presumption that ladies aren't going to be like, if I'm a lady and I like cars, it'll feed it to me. If I'm looking up monster trucks,
correct? Yes.
Hey, unless Facebook is sexist and doesn't give it to that lady, then we have a different conversation.
The algorithm doesn't care. The algorithm is not a human being. It hasn't got feelings, and it's not interested in equity or equality. An algorithm just does what it's meant to do, especially an advertising one. It sends the ad message to the person who's most interested in that ad message. That's all.
Your thoughts,
It's the same can be said about TikTok feeds. So it's quite interesting. You've got something called a For You page, and that's where you open up. It's like your home feed, and that's where
Right.
the algorithm feeds you everything, judging from what you've watched last, what you haven't watched all the way through, what you've liked, who you followed, and the subject matter that you've searched. And what comes up a lot is women TikTok users often open a second account and call themselves male, a male name with male interests. And it's interesting for the women to see what the men are generally being fed.
Right.
And it's completely different. It's a lot more scantily clad young girls, and that sort of thing, and Home Depot stuff. And what's interesting for me is my feed feels pretty balanced, which says something about me, I think. I've got a lot of lesbian home reno people and
Ooh.
home tips and that sort of thing, and a lot of trans women who
Really?
live these former lives of being handymen, and now are trans women who give out tips in the home, whether it's plastering or building something out of wood.
Sure. But Leigh-Ann, the exception makes the rule. I know that you are not the norm, and therefore you're not going to get the norm in terms of feed. And you're also, as part of your job, you're always researching and looking at stuff, right? So
Yeah,
you're
that's
probably
true.
paying more attention. Most people live in a silo. They only get the stuff that they really want to see and hear.
Yeah.
And they don't branch out from that very often, which is also why we have people who've never heard an argument against their favorite position, because they never get exposed to those arguments because of social media. But the algorithms don't care, is the point. And for any NGO to climb on a soapbox and start complaining about how not enough women are getting adverts about yachts and boats and cars and trains is just stupid, because it proves not that there's a problem with the algorithm or that there's unfairness happening somewhere. It proves that those people have a warped sense of reality. Men and women are different.
But also, Mbulelo's right. If I'm a woman in construction,
There are about 10 in the world, okay? There are about 10 women in the world in construction. Let's stop bullshitting ourselves.
it's
Home
interesting.
building lesbians-
I have a
home building
client
lesbians
who
are a tiny category. They really are.
is a property developer in the UK. He's one of the top property developers. And you're right. Out of the 40 YouTube videos that I've optimized for them,
Yes.
there is only one on women in construction. But if that woman in construction is on any social media platform, she will be fed adverts for jobs in construction.
Sure. Absolutely. And but that's because the algorithm is doing what it's meant to do. The algorithm is taking millions of data points across millions of devices in millions of countries. And all it's doing is purely mathematically constructing the best places for those ads to land in terms of an algorithm. It's saying, my formula is this to deliver the ad to these people. Now, because a bunch of social justice equality nutcases in an NGO are upset by the result, they say the problem is the algorithm. But the algorithm is just reflecting reality. That's all.
The problem with NGOs and religious institutions is that nobody's allowed to ask them is what's the end game. Like as soon as you ask them that, because hey, I'm an NGO. Oh, you must be good. Hey, we're the Catholic Church. Oh, you must be good. That's enough for us. So the problem is we can never get to what is the end game. Why would you say this? Like, why would you say this? Do you know how algorithms work? Nobody will ever ask them that, just as nobody will ever go to the Vatican and say, listen, chaps, let's take a seat. Well, what are we really up to here? So they're all such a...
Yeah. So I don't know. Global Witness can Kushmir and Tochasarai. Someone can send them a bag of dicks because they do not understand. It's not that they have a problem with Facebook. It's that they have a problem with reality. Their own idea of how the world should be in their heads has started to replace how the world is in their heads. And therefore, they're unhappy about that. It's like someone who goes to the mirror, they look in the mirror, and they're desperately, desperately unhappy with the way they look every day. And then they expect the whole world around them to change and to start treating them like someone attractive when they're not. The
And
problem
can
is
we
with
slap?
you, it's not with the world.
Can we also start slapping these dickheads in the face? Is why do I always hear from men about how women feel? Like more and more, I'm hearing far too much from men about what women want. About I believe they call them simps on the Twitter streets. But
That's the thing.
excuse me, like Chief, you've had your time, man. You know, as a man, okay, if I want to know what a Bangladeshi woman feels about her position, I'd like to hear a little more from the Bangladeshi woman and not some dickhead professor at Brown.
But this is exactly my frustration with so many people who appoint themselves as the spokesperson for a group that they don't belong to. You know, you hear these white liberals who are trying desperately hard to look like they're the freedom fighter of this generation, right? They go around telling you, but black people, but poor people, but Indian people, but colored people. They tell you these things. They're like, well, you're a spoiled white middle-class person and you're telling me what black people feel. Who gave you the mandate is always the best question. You know, someone who's not deaf overhears a conversation where you're like, you're making some mild joke at some deaf person's expense. And they walk over to you and they cross their arms and they look at you and they go, I just want to tell you that deaf people wouldn't appreciate that. And you go, oh, really? Are you deaf? And then they get even more upset with you. It's like,
And
no one gave you a mandate. Nobody gave you authority or what do they call it? The power of attorney. No one gave you power of attorney to speak on behalf of some disenfranchised or unfortunate group. Shut up. Go and sit down and carry on eating your cupcake.
and
Sit
also,
down.
sorry, Leigh-Ann. Yeah, so like hey, to every hot white chick, is you don't have to start every sentence by I acknowledge my privilege. Like relax. Like just take it easy, live your life. Being human's hard enough. I just want to say there's another subcategory that I've met, more so that I've come back to Joburg because Cape Town has no middle class black people at all. They're not allowed to live there. Is so in Joburg there's a really interesting sect of the black community developing as well. In this sense, was these kids whose parents have now, they live in Hyde Park, they live in Ilovo, and they speak for the poor part of their family like they're still poor, even though they've been through a full. I have a very big problem with that. So it's just to be clear, it's not just white people. I think it's just a human thing. You know what I mean?
But it's also it's purely attention seeking. Like all of it, you can basically dig down to the root of all of this, and I guarantee you, upwards of 80% of it comes from, I just want to be heard. I just want to be loved. I just want to feel important. Nobody listens to me. I'm just a nobody. I've done fuck all in my life. I've got nothing to be proud of. Just listen to me so I can feel a bit better and make it through the day. That's really where most of it comes.
Yeah, and also it's got a lot to do with everyone's being taught now that you have to have an opinion. You know, you've got to side with someone,
right?
You've got to believe in something, and a lot of people who don't have opinions are now kind of just taking on other people's opinions without really thinking about what they believe.
You don't. If you go into a Q&A about their first principles, it all falls apart very quickly. You're absolutely right, Leigh-Ann. It's like this pressure. You have to be opinionated because the cool kids are opinionated.
Instead of just listening, sitting back and listening to people who are in that situation, instead of trying to be the white marketing executive who knows what black people want.
So hanging out with Jay is saying sometimes you guys can go on and on and on. Okay, well, you know what, Jay? There's a solution to this. Just stop listening to us. Just go. We didn't realize we were boring you to death. So we'll show you the door. Thank you, Jay. Last time we'll need to hear from that piece of shit. Let's move on. We've got lots to do this morning. We've got lots to talk about. We've got lots of guests popping in, and we hope to go on and on and on until at least 8 o'clock. So, Jay, I can't wait for you to let us get on with our morning, and you can carry on with yours. We've got a guest called Robert Williams, who's a mind reader.
Robin Williams?
No, Robert Williams. That one's dead, the one you mentioned. So Robert Williams has been called a mind reader. And it's funny, Mbulelo pulled out his crystal ball earlier and made predictions about relationships going into the summer. He's got his crystal in his hand right now. But this guy, Robert Williams, is a professional mentalist and hypnotist who has been providing dream analysis for more than 20 years. And he's going to join us on the line from Ireland. and
Jeez.
show us some of his skills. Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to
I'd
him.
need 20 years with him just to discuss my dreams.
Yeah, you have pretty weird, vivid dreams. We'll get into that. And that 80s show is on later today. That's Paolo, Dorian Barrett. They're completely starstruck. They got to meet an absolute gentleman of music, a guy called Thomas Anders, who you may remember as the guy from Modern Talking, Leigh-Ann.
Mm-hmm. That's
Wasn't that-
right.
On my heart, you're my soul. Da, 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 da.
There you go.
Right? Yeah.
You're my heart.
Thomas will chat about his time in Modern Talking, the outfits from the 80s, the fondness for South Africa that he still has, his new album. He has a new album, and loads of other stuff that you can't remember because you're so infatuated with the 80s. You'll have to listen live on Cliff Central, 9 a.m. this morning, and it'll be repeated at 5 p.m. this afternoon. So make sure you don't miss that. Very good. We'll be back in a moment or two. CliffCentral.com, Friday morning.
There is only one place on Cliff Central for 80s movie recommendations, obscure 80s references, 80s crushes, and it's the only place on Cliff Central with the best 80s songs you forgot how much you loved. That 80s Show, Fridays, 9 a.m. on Cliff Central. People say we're stuck in the 80s, like it's a bad thing.
Yo, I put it like wow, this that sound. These oaks don't work hard like me, I hope they know by now.
Speaking of the MKT show, which you just might have seen the promo for, they are the podcast of the week this week. Tuesday's edition of the MKT show, our recommended podcast of the week. We try to give you at least one to look at, and this week that was the show. How is Harry Kane's brother still his agent? And was this situation forced by Harry's mum upon him? This is an actual conversation they had. Are PSG going to sign Thanos next? Because who's left for them to sign? This is the kind of stuff they talk about on this show. Are Atletico Madrid set up to dominate Spanish football for the next decade? A football club in the Czech Republic apparently dropped their best player, introvert of all time. And what is the best way to get healthier? Does your girlfriend need to threaten to leave you to get you back on the right track? This is the kind of stuff that they talk about on Mbulelo's show. So you need to You need to go and listen to that podcast. Yeah, well. Very
Sounds
nice.
good.
It is good. Find the podcast on cliffcentral.com, on our app, or wherever you listen. That is the MKT show. You can also watch it live on Cliff Central Sport on the YouTube channel, which you need to sign up for immediately. Go and subscribe. Don't mess around. All right. So when our guest joins us, Leigh-Ann, just now you'll need a piece of paper and a pen because our mentalist is going to join us at 7:15 this morning, and we'll talk to him and hopefully have a whole lot of fun. We've also got George joining us a little bit later on, Borge from Autos.
Borge.
Yeah, your friend Borge. Yes, that's right.
Whose name did I get wrong before I said Borge? He was the car dealer guy.
Oh, Philip.
Phil.
Phil.
I called him Bill.
You called him Bill. And Phil will be joining us next week again because we've still got to talk about that incredible track day that we had, which I haven't even told you all the fun things that we did on that track day. It was awesome. You're really cute, Leigh-Ann. I'm 65, so I'm too old for you, but kiss, kiss anyway, says Red Robin.
Oh, Red Robin, kiss, kiss. You're not too old for me.
Love knows no age, right, Leah?
No, exactly.
There we go.
I much prefer an older man anyway.
Yes. But not too old. I mean, like, what's the cutoff? Because you don't want to be a nursemaid.
Well, Red Robin would have to stay 65 for the next 10 years.
But you could start off with a great relationship together. I mean, it would certainly start that way.
Yes, absolutely.
No, absolutely.
You know what might make it easier? Maybe Red Robin has a few younger brothers, sort of say 58, 55. And then what happens should Red Robin reach that dreaded number? Then you just go, all right, no worries. I know what I'm dealing with. Let's just plug and play.
Correct.
Let's get Red Robin 2 in the mix. Let's just.
So,
absolutely.
I don't want to go into a whole thing around vaccines because every time we bring it up, we get into arguments, and I think it's unnecessary. But if you are vaccinated, apparently Discovery is going to give you vitality points that are equal to 25 days of exercise. So now we're talking motivation. I mean, that sounds like a good reason to go.
Yes. A lot of people really rely on these Discovery points, these vitality points. They mean a lot. And a lot of people are with Discovery.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so you just go for your vaccine, you get the bonus points.
Yes, you'll receive 2,500 vitality points. That's the equivalent of 25 days of exercise. If you're wondering when, because you've already been vaccinated, then they'll be allocated next month in October.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to take any action. If you've been vaccinated, you'll automatically get your points. It's also equal to or a little below the value of participating in a timed race event, which comes in at 3,000 points.
All right.
And for a comparison, you get 1,000 points per year available for a consultation with a dietitian.
So, Mbulelo, how do you feel about the fact that Discovery, which is basically a platform that now evaluates your physical form and your general health, how do you feel about the fact that some person who just goes and gets an injection is essentially getting the same amount of points as you do for a timed race event? That must piss you off, right? That must.
You put me in a tough position here because I want. Yeah, I see what you've done here. You've done well, Gareth. It does pinch me a little bit. Plus, Adrian Gore is one of my heroes, so you've really put me. I mean, I have to be honest and say I would like to sit across from Adrian Gore just to make him explain what him and the team were thinking. But yeah, no, you know what? Let's stop the BS. I'm sour about it. Like I've spent all these years being at it, and then you just go and sit down and get a lollipop at the end. Bloody hell!
I'm going to make myself a medal saying I finished a time race.
Exactly. Have your own medal cast and wear it around your neck for the show next week. That would be hilarious. Just to piss off all those people who've actually done the exercise.
I'll try and find my Nando's Chicken Run 5-kilometer run medal, and I'll do some modifications.
I'll find my 2004 702 walk the talk thing where I had to. To
be fair, I have run and completed a 10K run.
Sure. That's
at
better
night
than
through
me.
Joburg.
That's very good. That's better than me. Even if it took you a long time, I mean, that's a huge achievement. I mean, listen, little things like that I think are great, because I know that it's hard to do. I mean, I always refer back to that ridiculous marathon that I did, that 3 kilometer run that I did with a bunch of women in Cape Town. It was basically me against a whole bunch of ladies. Some of them were professional runners, some of them were not. But there were about, I don't know, 60 people altogether. But it was basically it was designed as an event to humiliate me, which I liked. I mean, and that's why I agreed to do it. I was like, well, I'm sure that even if I have no training and even if I've done no work at all, that I could probably beat a third of these ladies. And Adidas said, "Oh, really, Gareth? You think so, huh?" So they made an event just for me to take on. I think it was 60 or maybe a few more than that, ladies. And yes, I didn't win, but I think I came 11th, which is not bad. And I was dead for half an hour after that. I couldn't breathe. 3 kilometers. I mean, Mbulelo, you're laughing because for you, 3 kilometers is a brisk. That's like me going up and down the stairs at home, right?
It's a warm up.
Yeah. So I'm very careful about not giving credit for doing running races. That's hard work. I can feel that that you get afterwards because you're out of breath. Yeah, it's horrendous. It takes a long time to not be that huffing and puffing dragon at the end of it.
But it's an easy way to do stuff. Just like get out there. I encourage people to walk. Just walk. If you have legs, walk. Don't stop buying performance stuff as well. Like most people get caught up because, again, and I think Ben nailed it earlier. Everyone gets caught up in what's happening on Instagram. Let's put your watch down, go for a walk every day for an hour, chill out, listen to a podcast. The GCS, by the way, that can be found cliffcentral.com, the Cliff Central app, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Catch up on this show for now.
And like and subscribe on YouTube because we like that too. We need that. The algorithms that we were talking about earlier don't work if you don't. So just quickly, Elaine says she finds Discovery Vitality too much admin. I've never loved admin. I train my ass off and I eat healthy. There must be an easier way. I get a free coffee every now and then. That's all she says she gets out of it. Hey, their rewards are a little bit better than some of the other. There's some of these things where you join up. I mean, like every shop I go to now, they ask for a rewards card, and I don't have any of those. I know people that are very disciplined about them, and they score. Like my mom was in the shop the other day.
I do, and it's pretty good.
You do?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not religious about it. And then I'll go to Clicks, for instance, and I forget that I have all these points. And then every now and then the teller will say, the bill came to 500 and they'll say, you've got 175 Rand. Do you want to use it? I mean, that's a bonus.
That's very nice. I saw, my mom told me she saw this old lady who was in the shop in front of her, and she got like free shopping for that day. So that's quite cool. Apparently some little bell went off, and this little old lady who unfortunately for her, she hadn't had a full trolley, but she had a few things in her trolley, and she got them for free because she's part of this rewards thing.
She's like, damn, I would have got all the coconut oil and all of the seeds and the quinoa.
She said exactly that. She's like, well, if I'd known I was going to win this, I would have filled my trolley to the brim. But then she would have had to pay for it if it wasn't her lucky day, right? So you never know.
But they're so smart with doing that, Like now, imagine even if it's just 10 people that see that, you go, oh, I need a card now. Like you know how we are as humans.
Correct.
That is so smart. Oh,
it's very clever. And also, I think it warms everybody's heart to know that some old lady managed to get a day's free shopping. I mean, even if it wasn't a lot of money, I think everybody's like, yeah, pensioner, she deserves that. That's nice. As long as people who eat, write, and exercise are not punished for choosing not to get the jab, is what Wendy says. That's interesting. I don't see it that way. I'm not sure how I interpret this, but they are trying very hard to persuade people to do this stuff, which always makes me a little suspicious. I think
don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. But here's the thing: is if it's good for you, and it's something that we should all do to avoid having to stay in this lockdown world, then we'll all be doing it, right?
Well, they're trying to keep you out of hospital because that's where you score the
Correct.
most as a member. I mean, to remind you, I always get the numbers wrong, but my mum's bill from hospital was around 7 million rand, and
Oof.
we paid
What?
for a pair of corrective boots. And that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
it.
but that was, no, she was in for a while though. I mean, it was that
2
was really
years, yeah.
no, she was
But
she wasn't
but that's
COVID,
what
but
they're trying to. No, that's what they're trying to do. They're keeping you out of hospital, and I'm with that. I'll go with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And what's nice about them compared to NGOs is Adrian Gore's very clear. It's about the money. The guy, he's a mensch. He's not a liar. It's about the money, like you said.
well,
Is
yes.
I want my
I mean-
people going to work and being able to pay, and I love that. It's clear.
And Robert says quite rightly, incentivizing is not equal to forcing. That's absolutely true. But there are some strange incentives being thrown at people. You know, I mean, and this is also the point that Robert makes. You need to dangle a carrot in front of a dumb donkey to get it to move. That's also true. I do think that's a good point.
It is a great point. Unfortunately, I wish we could, like you said about exercise earlier, is people will only go to a point of comfort, right? People hate pain. So you have to force people to do the right thing more often than not. You just have to, because people stay at what I know and I feel safe.
If you
All
had
right.
to pay me to run or to go to gym,
Yeah.
I would do it so easily.
Really?
So easily. I would go now. Right
Okay.
now.
Well, let's think of an incentive scheme here, because that would be interesting. I mean, I don't know that there are some people you couldn't give them enough money to change the way they behave. There are lots of people who just would not change. But if you say that, Leigh-Ann, then that's a good sign, I suppose. Incentives do matter. So let's talk about the incentive of being able to read people's minds. Now, I love this. This stuff has always fascinated me on some level, because Robert Williams, our next guest, is a professional mentalist and hypnotist. He's been providing dream analysis for more than 20 years, and he joins us today live from Ireland. He's going to be showing off a few of his skills. Before that, we're going to get to know a little bit about him. Yuri Geller has called him an amazing mind reader. He's appeared on various radio and TV shows. He's with us this morning. Hey, Robert, how are you?
Good morning, Gareth. Good morning, guys. And what a lovely pleasure to say hello to you all the way from Ireland to lovely Johannesburg. Good morning, everyone.
We all love the accent, so you're already our favorite person for this morning. You're most welcome. So nice to see you. How did you start doing all this? How did you start doing all this stuff, Robert?
Gareth, I've always been interested in, I suppose, what we call mystery. And from a very young age, I can remember watching programs like, and I'm sure you got it in South Africa, Ripley's Believe It or Not. Went on to watch programs like Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. And I was always fascinated by the whole mystery attached to, I suppose, the unknown. Not that it makes much difference, because I'm not going to expand upon this. And I'm not really saying it for any other reason than to mention how it all began. But at 11 years old, myself, my brother, and a friend, we witnessed something that, let's just say, Gareth, it wasn't of this world. And I think that set me on a certain trajectory that got me involved in.
We do want to know what this was. I mean, that sounds very mysterious. People are going to go, you can't just leave it there. What was this thing you saw at a young age that made you think it was out of this world?
Well, as I said, I'm reticent to expand upon it. And the only reason being, Gareth, is because I'm in the public eye. My brother isn't. And it's something I've written about in a couple of books I've wrote. I haven't never really mentioned the episode itself. Suffice to say, and by the way, and I think you and I would be similar in this regard, the paradox is I'm actually one of the biggest skeptics you'd ever meet. Notwithstanding the fact I do what I do, but I really do. I need a lot of convincing to anything. And as a young boy, and as I said, I really want to expand upon it. All I will say is that we were in a very old building that essentially people were still living in. It was a post-war building. And myself, my brother, and a friend, we witnessed something, like I said, that wasn't quite, at least as I could understand it, it wasn't of this world. And the interesting point was, Gareth, as the years unfolded and as the decades went by, I began to think, well, perhaps that's all maybe memory confusion. I started to add details in my mind, and maybe I didn't really see what I seen. So a couple of Christmases ago, I called and met my brother, and I said to him, have you ever thought about that episode? He said, thought about it? He said, I haven't stopped thinking about it. I think about it quite regularly. And I said, well, can you tell me exactly what we seen? He said, why would I tell you? You were there also. So it just amused me. And the interesting point, Gareth, is that what he said to me was exactly how I remember it. So I think as an adult, that was a bit more perturbing than as a child, not really knowing what to see. But like I said, I'm sorry to bring it up and not really saying much more about it, other than to say to you, that set me on a particular trajectory, and I got involved in everything esoteric, from just mentalism, which is a marvelous art form, mind reading, hypnosis, dream analysis, card reading, all these things. And I suppose the one thing I would say is, and it's very important to mention, you know, Gareth, I don't take myself very serious. I take what I do quite serious, but I don't take myself very serious. And I suppose coupled with that, I'm not here to convince anyone of anything other than it's very nice to talk to you all.
Robert, listen, have you considered, sorry, I just want to, have you considered that it was the day Bono was born, and perhaps the light emitted from that, he immediately put on his sunglasses, and my God, from there.
Oh, well, no, I'd say what the interesting point is this: if over in this part of the world, if we had seen Bono in something less than a supernatural form, we would think that's an everyday occasion, because Bono, you know, Bono likes to elevate himself to that status, so there's nothing unusual there.
So tell me quickly, before we get into any of the actual dream analysis, what do you think it can reveal about us or to us about ourselves? Because everybody's hugely introspective these days. Everybody's a bit self-absorbed, if you ask me. They're always trying to figure out what everything means and how they feel about it. And, you know, it's me the whole day long. So what can our dreams tell us without just satisfying our intense obsession with ourselves?
I think it's a wonderful insight, Gareth, and it's a marvelous way of putting it. And I think in many ways, obviously, the internet has been a fantastic invention. And without it, we wouldn't be talking today. But notwithstanding that, I think the point is that it also has taken away, as you said, a lot of the mystery, because people are very quickly on Google and try and find this instant gratification, answers for everything. But in terms of dreams, and it's always been my contention that in the dream process, so let's look at what happens when we dream. We go to sleep at night. This is the conscious mind. This is the reasoning mind, the one that we're all operating on. And when we go to sleep at night, the subconscious takes over. And all the subconscious essentially is, and for those of a certain age will remember the video recorders and the VHS, it records everything that we witness throughout the day. And that's why it starts to symbolize in the dreams with the images and the storylines that we start to present in the dream. That starts the subconscious process of telling us exactly some little warning signs that we need to be aware of. And I suppose in many ways, apart from it being a thing all about us, it's also the subconscious looking after us. And so more or less reminding us of what we need to get done. But there is a quick aspect I want to talk about, Gareth. At least it's my belief that 85% of dreams can be explained scientifically. The mystery that was once there regarding dreams, I think, is all but eroded now. But there is an aspect to a dream that is still not explained, and it's what's called a precognitive dream. Essentially, somebody dreams of an event or of a person, and in a very relatively short period of time, that actual dream comes true. So that's still unexplained, and again, that's the mystery part.
That's an amazing thing, and I've experienced that. I'm sure everybody has in some way, where you've had an idea of something, or you've dreamt something, and then it suddenly starts coming true, and you feel either there's been some deja vu, as people call it, or that you've actually manifested something in reality that started in a dream.
Absolutely. I think, and this is, I suppose, why I still have a deep fascination with the dream process is simply because of that point. And we can look back through lots of recorded history. Even, for example, if we look at the music world, it's well documented that Paul McCartney says that he dreamed of the chord orientation to the song yesterday. Woke up and just put the rest of it together. But even deeper than that, Gareth, there has been many occasions. I used to have a dream and hypnosis clinic here in Ireland, and the amount of people that would come to me and tell me about dreams that they said weren't making much sense. And then the following day, or very, very shortly afterwards, that dream would actually come true exactly how they dreamt it. So it is very much an interesting aspect, I feel.
Well, I mean, there could even be scientific explanations for these things, and some people are attempting to explain them scientifically by saying that the brain is still something we don't completely understand, but that there is some element and aspect of the brain where it has to imagine something before it can actually make that thing come true. And because essentially we're not entirely sure of how anything happens, we're not sure why people make the decisions that they do, whether there's a destiny or whether there's a kind of some force at work that we're not entirely aware of. Either way, the fact that human beings have great ideas and then they're able to act those out has to start with something, and it usually starts with that part of the brain that we understand the least, the part that has to do with imagination or with dreaming or with those things that we can't entirely bring down to numbers and patterns.
Again, I think it's a wonderful way of putting it, and I agree in the main with what you're saying. The one aspect though that still for me is quite unexplainable is, and you're quite right, in order for something to happen you have to imagine it and so on. But then that brings on a broader point. If you imagine, which I've done recently, meeting somebody who I haven't seen in a very, very long time, and then literally the following day, that person appeared in a shop as I dreamt it. Well, then what does that mean? How could I create that situation where that person was going to be in that shop at that time? So, it's, as I said, Gareth, it's very nice because, as you said it earlier on, so many things today can at least try and be explained, and so many people think they've all the answers. And of course, none of us do. And that's the mystery of it. I really still find fascinating.
Can anybody develop these skills of mentalism? Because we've got a couple of friends in South Africa who do mentalism as well. And one of them has been on the show a couple of times. And I've always been very skeptical, but he's a nice guy and I don't think he means any ill. And he's tried to explain to me how he does some of these things, but I'm still not entirely sure whether it's something everybody can learn. It takes a huge amount of skill and dedication and training, and you have to practice and practice and practice, right? Or is it just something we can pick up?
You know something, Gareth, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I heard you're a very insightful guy and that you asked the most salient questions, and so far that's been absolutely right. And you're so right, because so many times people get the whole idea of mentalism completely confused, and it's at least my idea that you do have to have a certain skill set to perform I would call good mentalism, because mentalism compared to magic, for example, a magician is all about the visual arts, whereas mentalism, when it's performed correctly, it's all got to do with the mind. It's magic of the mind, it's theater of the mind, and I do think you have to have a certain skill set in order to perform professionally and perform it well. But again, when it works, it's wonderful. And when it doesn't, well, then it doesn't.
Okay, so let's play with some of this, because people always want to see what you're talking about actually manifest in reality. So okay. I know you sent me a letter a while ago, and I'm sorry, but our post office in this country is so useless that I didn't even get it. Okay, not to worry, Gareth. Listen, let's just begin. Now, by the way, let me just say a couple of things. As I said at the beginning, I'm going to try something with all three of you, because you all look like three wonderful people that we can try little experiments or tests with. Okay, so don't be nervous, and remember, right, if it works, it's because I'm so good, and if it doesn't work, it's because you just didn't follow instructions. Okay, and, all right, let's go.
That's the disclaimer. That's the disclaimer out of the way. And let's have a bit of fun. It's Friday. Let's not take any of this serious. But everything I've said, Gareth, is based on what's called ESP. And ESP is an acronym for extrasensory perception. Now, back in the 1930s, Joseph Ryan and Carl Zener developed what's called ESP symbols and tested. And there, Gareth, I'd like you to look at this, please. They're as follows. The symbols are the wavy lines, the cross, the square, the circle, and the star. Now, if I was to say to you just very quickly, just to name one out, which one would you say, Gareth? Just name one.
I'll take the wavy lines.
The wavy lines. Now, what I can tell you about the wavy lines is this. Anybody who chooses the wavy lines, at least in my experience, and again, this is all a bit of fun, would be people who would have a little bit of, I would call it, difficulties that they're trying to overcome in their life. But that's the same for everybody. Everybody will have little bits and pieces that perhaps they want to try and overcome. But can I just ask you, before I show you this envelope and open it, when you said wavy lines, did you think it or did you hear that? In terms of when you said wavy lines?
No, I saw it. I saw it on the card you had held up. Yeah.
Okay, well, Gareth, listen, there's one envelope here, and inside the envelope I have a little card, okay? I'd like to just look at the back of it and read what that says.
Gareth, I will mentally send you the... Yeah? Dun, dun, dun. Wavy lines.
Not very interesting. Okay, so it's 1 out of 5, but it's not bad, and it's a good start because, Leigh-Ann, right, I see you looking very nervous at me, and that's a good thing, by the way, because I'm also nervous. So let's all be nervous together. Now, let me just say very quickly that many things I've done over the years, one of the things I actually done was I used to perform some presentations for different police departments and speaking about lie tellers and people who are not been totally honest. Let me just give you a little bit of a background to this.
Leigh-Ann, she's completely dishonest. That's the thing everybody knows.
Now, Leigh-Ann, that's no coincidence that there are synchronicities that work already. But one of the things you look for when you're trying to tell if somebody's telling the truth or not is obviously the facial expressions, body language. And there's little micro expressions that give us away. For example, if I was to ask you a question you're not overly comfortable with, there might be a little thing hardwired inside you that will make you just squint your eye a small bit. Or in some cases, if somebody's getting excited, the nostrils will start to enlarge. Stuff like this, if you're trained to look for it, you'll find it. Okay, but we're going to play a little game here, Leigh-Ann, if that's okay. Now, what I would ask you is, do you have a coin or maybe a little rolled up paper ball that you could maybe just crunch up into your hand right now?
I do. Something I'll tear one out of my notebook.
That's it, Leigh-Ann. And make sure it's quite small so that we, when it's put into the fist of your hand, that we can't see it. Okay.
So scrunch it up.
Scrunch it up nicely like that. Okay. Now, what I've just said is in terms of how I would do this. If I was, for example, if I was doing a presentation, I'd be in front of you and I would say exactly how I told what I did. But I'm going to rule all that out. I don't want to see you, okay? Because in a few moments' time, even though you're a beautiful lady, but for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to be using this blindfold, okay? Leigh-Ann, there's a couple of things I want to mention that are quite important here, okay? I'm going to be working only on what's called the inflection of your voice. So I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions, and I'm just going to hear your answers, and I'm going to try and base your answers on what I feel is where this particular roll of paper ball is going to go. In a few moments' time, I'm going to actually put your hand behind your back. You're going to mix this piece of paper up in your hand, and we're going to take it one step further. You can leave it in your left hand, your right hand, or in fact, in your left pocket or your right pocket. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, one final point I would say to make it even more test conditions and difficult for me would be this. I want you now to, in your mind, please, just in your mind, decide whether you're going to be a truth teller or a liar. Now, don't say this out loud or it makes it very easy. So in your mind, decide. I'm going to ask you two questions. You have to decide whether you're going to tell me the truth or tell me lies. Don't change out character. So in your mind, just decide now you're going to be the truth teller or the liar. Does that make sense?
It does, and I've decided.
And again, when I ask you the question, just answer in that particular mode and don't try and change it up because that'll give you away even quicker. All right, in a few moments, I'm going to put this blindfold on. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You have your role in your mind. You get the piece of paper, you put it behind your back, and you put it in your left hand, your right hand, your right pocket, or your left pocket. Okay. Now, there's one request I want to make to you is always this. It's quite serious. When I take this blindfold off, please don't still be here, because it'd be terrible to end up talking to myself. It wouldn't be nice at all. Okay, so let me just put this blindfold on, and suddenly it's gone dark. Okay, Leigh-Ann, can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Leigh-Ann, I'd like you to imagine, please, and this is not a question, just imagine that there's a beautiful line going through part of your body, and there's a left side and the right side. Now, remember, in the role that you're going to play, you're going to keep to this role. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. The first question I'm going to ask you, Leigh-Ann, and very quickly you can answer me, is the object have you put the object somewhere at this stage? Have you put the piece of paper?
Yes.
Okay, so is the object on the left side of your body?
Yes.
Okay, and is the object in one of your hands?
Yes.
Okay. Now, listen, Leigh-Ann, before I take the blindfold off, just have basically your hands cusped like this, but out of camera shot, so I can't see them when I take the blindfold off. Okay?
Okay.
Good. Okay, let me take this off. Good news is you're still here. Okay. Now, it's my job to ascertain the 3 places that it's not and the 1 place that it is. And by the way, Gareth was right. You're quite good at this. In fact, you're very good at it. Now, remember what I said at the beginning. If it works, it's because I'm good, and if it doesn't, because you didn't follow instructions. Let me just think about this. Let me do this for a minute. Okay. Leigh-Ann, put your hands are clasped like this, okay? Now, what I would ask you to do is, just very, very slowly, and out of camera shots, you've got them like this, very, very slowly, Leigh-Ann, you're going to lift up your left hand like this for me. Lift up your left hand, okay? Put it into the camera shot. And then open up your left hand, nice and wide like that. Show us your hand. And what's in the left hand?
The paper.
Isn't that very interesting? And the one thing is that, Leigh-Ann, on the claim to fame I have is that I'm the only man, I believe, who actually knows how a woman actually thinks. Isn't that very interesting?
Really?
Well, I think so. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Well, it would be.
That's
well,
fun.
Before we go any further, I've got one last little test to do, and then Gareth, maybe we can talk a little bit about dreams. Actually, or we talk a little bit more about dreams, then we go on to the final test. I mean, much more have we got? Another 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, let's go for it. Sure.
Okay. Now, this gentleman's name, can please tell me how to pronounce it, because I'm certainly not going to do him the injustice of telling him.
Mbulelo.
Sorry? Mbulelo.
Mbulelo.
How are you? It's very nice to see you.
I'm good.
Now, listen,
Very nice to see you.
Now, I know you're very skeptical, but I'm very skeptical. We're all skeptical, but that's all part of living, okay? And what I would say to you is this. I feel you're very, very, and this is just saying, just because it just comes to me, okay? I think, by the way, have you ever decided to, just little thing that just came into my head, and this is what happens, I do card reading and so on. These things come into my head. Have you ever decided to, or have you been looking at maybe your family tree? Have you looked at your family tree or thinking about doing a family tree?
No.
I sense if you do, you're going to be quite interested, because I believe there's a relative of yours who was quite an interesting character. And that might sound like a fairly broad thing to say, but the final thing I'll say to you is this. You're a very ambitious guy who I think business-wise, you're going to do quite well for yourself. You just need to, the nervous energy sometimes gets a bit high for all of us. But that, notwithstanding that, let's use your wonderful imagination. What I'm going to ask you to do is this. You're going to imagine now I have an invisible pack of playing cards, okay? And I'm going to hand them to you. Please take them off me. Excellent. Now you're going to take the playing cards out. You're going to hold them out in a pattern like this. And you're going to see that there's black and red cards, okay? No, don't shuffle them because you need to see them, okay?
Oh.
There's black and red cards. Now the black and red cards, what are you going to hand me? The black or the red?
Black.
The black. So you got the red cards. Now in the red cards, you have the diamonds and the hearts. What are you going to hand me? The diamonds or the hearts?
Hearts.
The hearts. You need enough with the diamonds. With the diamonds, of course, you have pictures and numbers. Pictures and numbers. And the diamonds, what are you going to hand me? The diamonds, the pictures or the numbers?
I'll hand you the pictures.
The pictures, so you're left now with the numbers. Now, the numbers in the diamond cards are as follows. The Jack, the Queen, and the King of Diamonds. Yes? Okay. Now, in your imagination, you're going to put these 3 imaginary cards on the table. The Jack, the Queen, and the King of Diamonds. Have you done that for me? Okay, there's 3 cards. You're going to pick 2 of them up, the Jack, Queen, and the King of Diamonds. Which 2 do you pick up?
The Jack and the Queen.
And you're leaving the King of Diamonds on the table?
Yeah.
Now, let me just give you a little bit of statistics here. There's approximately 13,504 kilometers separating you and I. The population of beautiful Johannesburg is a little less than 6 million. The population of Ireland is around 5 million. When we add that together, that's 11 million people. Oh, and you and I makes it 11 million and 2. Out of those 11 million and 2 people, is there anybody, seriously, anybody could have known that at the end of this free process, and it was a free process, you were going to leave the King of Diamonds on the table?
Not to my knowledge.
And well, not to mine neither. And I think we did it all from start to finish. And none of this is actually anything other than your choice, because I give you all the choices and that's what you decided to do. Now, I could tell you, of course, that I knew that. And you might say, well, Robert, I can see you're quite good over your previous demonstrations. But I'd like to take it one step further and actually prove it. And the only way I can prove it is this. You're in your studio, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
I am.
And the card that you decided freely to leave on the table was the King of Diamonds. There's a bookshelf behind you, I believe. Isn't that correct?
It's in front of him.
It's in front of you. The bookshelf in front of you. Now, this is going to sound really weird. I can't explain this, but the bookshelf in front of you, my sense of it is that there's a model car. You have a couple of model cars, isn't that correct? On the bookshelf.
Yep.
Yes.
Behind one of the model cars, there's an envelope. Go over and get it, please. This is quite weird. Just come back with the envelope. This is quite weird. I mean, this is weird. I mean, this is real mystery. I mean, if you thought the first 2 were good, just watch this. So you've got the envelope. And what's that envelope? So the envelope has a question mark on it. Now, you haven't seen the envelope before, have you?
I have not.
And up until this point, I mean, we haven't set anything up, have we?
No.
And you and I have never met each other before, have we?
No.
You seem kind of pleased about that. However,
I don't like Conor McGregor.
Well, I mean, there's a fan club growing there. But let's think about this. Of all the cards you could have chosen, you chose the King of Diamonds. Completely and utterly your choice. Of course, there's 13,000 kilometers separating us. For the first time, please show everybody in Cliff Central and all around the world what's inside the envelope.
All right. I feel like those unboxing dickheads.
What have you got? Isn't that amazing?
Okay.
I mean, is that not just weird?
That's
not wild.
surreal. That is wild.
I mean, isn't it very interesting how these things can just play? And again, it was all free choice. So, Gareth, that's a little flavor of the kind of stuff we get up to. But more interesting than that, it all was about you making that choice. So that's a little bit of the mentalism out of the way. And that's how I perform. I have a hope that what you call good mentalism.
Well,
Wow.
I mean, a part of me, again, the skeptic has to climb in here and spoil everyone's fun.
Yes.
But if you had already determined that the King of Diamonds was the card that you wanted in that envelope, you did, not Mbulelo. So then you just have to direct him to the King of Diamonds with your questions. So instead of saying what's left on the table, you say what's the stuff that you've chosen, or so you narrow it down for him, so he eventually gets to the card that you wanted him to get to without even knowing it wasn't his choice.
Well, Gary, what I'd ask you to do, and respectfully, look back on the video and just see how Mbulelo made all of these choices himself. And it could only have been that he had to leave that card. I mean, there's a dichotomy that's not quite right. If I have the card, well, it makes no sense to say, well, look, I have the card, but look what you have. It had to be that I had to somehow understand that he was going to decide to leave that particular card on the table to make that lovely little transition where you can go over and pick up the card right across the room. So
let me ask you something here. The dreams, because that I think is really an interesting place for us to talk.
Yes.
Leigh-Ann has these really, really graphic dreams. She dreams things in extraordinary detail and can remember them the next day. some of us can't remember our dreams. Is there a different skill that those people have who can remember them? And those people who can have these very vivid dreams that can, I don't know, manifest reality and do all kinds of other interesting things. Are those people just lucky, or have they developed that skill?
No, I think in Leigh-Ann's case, in that particular case, Leigh-Ann's obviously somebody who has a quite a vivid and good imagination, which is a great thing, by the way. There's always this thing people will say, well, I just don't remember my dreams. I don't dream. 90% of the population dream, unless you have a neurological condition to prevent you from dreaming. We all dream. But definitely, Leigh-Ann, in your case, it's certainly something that is a very vivid imagination. That's what will bring out the vibrant colors and in many ways, the bizarre type of dreams that you may occasionally be having. And that would explain in many ways why these dreams are so real when you wake back up.
Yeah, absolutely. Since a child, I've been highly imaginative, to the point of distraction.
Well, that's a good thing. And I think it furthers the point that going to school, at least over here, we're always told, stop daydreaming. I think that's a terrible thing to tell anybody, because that's another process of the mind that we still don't fully understand. And as Gareth alluded to, whether you subscribe to this whole manifest and stuff or whatever, I think the whole idea of imagination is something that we should not lose, because it gives us so many opportunities.
I find it a bit disturbing that you've been sneaking around our studio all the way from Ireland and putting on behind cars.
You want to see, Gareth? You want to see the next time I come back what I've put behind your bookshelf? But that's all for another day.
I'm just looking. I'm wondering what the hell you've hidden in there, like an old fish or something.
Something like that. Yes, that smell is about too much. Leigh-Ann, by the way, have you considered giving up smoking yet, or have you stopped smoking?
No, I had one 40 minutes ago.
Right. Okay. Well, there we go. It's interesting.
Yes, I'd like to give up.
Yeah, and the reason I say that is because Gareth mentioned with hypnosis. I would say if you really would like to give up, why not find yourself a really good hypnotist? Now, a really good hypnotist should be able to sort it out for you within, I would imagine, 1 or 2 sessions.
I tell you what, I've been before and it worked like a charm. I went to one in South Africa, and it was interesting because I had my husband with me at the time. He was just in the room, sitting at the back of the room. And went for this hypnosis, very skeptical, did not believe that it would work. And the two of us got into the car afterwards, and out of pure rebellion, we lit up a cigarette to see what would happen. And we almost vomited. We threw that cigarette out immediately. And without going for top-up sessions, that got me stopped smoking. For 10 months, I stopped smoking.
Amazing.
Until I picked one up again. But if I'd kept up with the sessions, it would have worked. And I truly and honestly say that. Well,
there's your chance to maybe do it.
Hypnotherapy, again, do all people respond equally to hypnosis?
No, and Gareth, I'm self-taught as a hypnotist. I've always believed that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. There's so many myths attached to hypnosis that it gets quite funny after a while. But nobody can be put in a trance, and then what is a trance? Nobody can be put under unless they really want to. And someone like you, Gareth, who's like me, who's quite skeptical. In fact, I think all of us here have a very kind of a critical mind. In some ways, the contradiction is we are probably quite susceptible, simply because once we allow that critical faculty to just dumb down a bit, that's when a good hypnotist can get into the subconscious, and that's all that's happening. Essentially, we're getting past the reasoning part of the mind, and Leigh-Ann would know this, into the subconscious, and then you start giving them powerful suggestions like cigarettes are dirty, don't ever smoke them again, and that's how it works.
Absolutely. And I keep mentioning my clients, but I have a client in the UK, in St. Albans, who's a hypnotherapist. She focuses on, anxiety, depression, overeating, binge eating, emotional eating. I can 100% say that hypnotherapy is unbelievable for this. You obviously need to want to be in that position, but it's all about getting your mind into a state where it's more receptive to replacing old ideas and habits with new ideas. And it's exercise for the brain. I think it's fantastic.
Well, you see, just on a wider point, to finish the whole thing about trance-like states, or whatever you want to call it, and Gareth and everyone else, this is something we experience every day. In many ways, it could be argued that we're in a kind of a trance right now because we're all concentrating on each other. We're all paying attention to each other. The most simplest example I can give you is if you're driving to and from work. You think about it, you can't remember anything with the drive other than when you look straight ahead. If you're watching a good movie on TV, again, that's a type of a trance. But the whole idea of trance in and of itself is suggesting somebody's just been under the complete command of a Svengali-like type of character. But again, that's all for the movies.
Well, but that is the way a lot of people feel about this stuff, right? Because they're not maybe they've been they're really susceptible to these kinds of things. Maybe they just want it to be true so desperately. But there are also things that are just inexplicable. There are things that we just can't explain.
Well, this is exactly how we started the conversation. And I totally agree with you, Gareth. And as I said, I think in some ways we would, and all of us here, as I said, we're probably all very critically minded. I'm very, very skeptical, notwithstanding the fact I've seen what I've seen over the years that it's completely unexplainable. I've witnessed certain things. But as you said, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind, at least, that this wonderful thing we call the mind is still the most misunderstood thing we have. And the real paradox is this, and I found when I used to have a clinic, people would come and say, Robert, I'm feeling so bad. And the last place they would go to try and get help is up here. Because what is this? We can't touch it, we can't feel it, we can't hold it. Right. But yeah, it's the most important thing will ever be bestowed upon us, and we just don't use it enough.
Well, listen, you're a fantastic guest, and we've had lots of fun talking to you. And we love the Irish accent, and we love Irish people here in South Africa. I hope you get a chance to visit.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to actually meet some then? Actually, when you may be back in your studio, get into studio, and that's where the real fun and games will begin.
we'll definitely.
As you might say up there, Chakialar.
Oh well, Slongala. It's been lovely. It's been lovely speaking to you all. Okay,
very nice, Mbulelo. Thank you so much. Nice to see you, Robert. That's Robert Williams, who is a mentalist. And he's also a hypnotist. He's been providing dream analysis and things like that for more than 20 years and joining us all the way from Ireland this morning. But now it's time to go to Johannesburg and to see George Meany, who is joining us from his... are you at home or in your office or in your studio? Or where are you, George? We can't hear you, George. I think you're muted.
Mute button. Yes, I'm sadly at home, Gareth. How's it?
No, why do you say sadly? You want to get back to the office?
Yeah, we're kind of tired of this lockdown now. It's from a leadership and culture point of view, lockdown is not good.
No, I agree.
As a business, we've decided on a policy which brings people back, most of the time when lockdown lifts, because we have found that we can work like this. It is possible. From a cultural point of view, it is a bad thing for a business.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. We're doing currently about 1 to 2 days in the office, each of us. Mbulelo's obviously there every morning in Simpiwe, but I think it's really important that people are in proximity of each other if they're expected to work together. It's impossible to carry on like this. In fact, I am, to my own detriment, I'm going to be back in the studio 1 or 2 days. We'll see, a week going forward, but we'll figure that out as we go. I'm just thinking it's something we need to do, even if it's just to get a different feel, a different pace, different energy going back into the show. So despite all the criticisms that have been leveled at me that I didn't take very well for doing the show from home, I think there might be a consideration that we might want to do just 1 or 2 things in the studio.
Growth is the ability to allow the feedback to ruminate and then the output. So, hold on. Blessings to you, Gareth. That energy is a higher energy that you're holding. You're holding a higher energy right now.
Thank you, Mbulelo. Thank you. So, George, we got lots to talk about this morning. Let's get straight into it. George, of course, is the CEO of Auto Trader. That's the business we were talking about when I said to him, are you back in the office yet? And they do Auto Central here on Cliff Central every single week. So what do you got for us this week?
So the first story, Gareth, is a Florida man. I thought potholes were only for South Africa.
Florida man.
Florida man, here we go.
There are potholes in Florida, believe it or not. A Florida man got fed up with a pothole near his house, so he planted a banana tree in the pothole to warn motorists.
There it is. Look at that. A big banana tree.
It's quite a tall banana tree, yeah.
Taller than a car. It's hilarious.
At least you'll miss the pothole. So he got fed up with having to put cement in this pothole all the time because the pothole just kept reappearing.
Oh my God.
And so he decided to plant a banana tree.
Okay.
Look, it could be helpful in helping people avoid it. But if you're looking down for a second and you look up and you're face to face with a tree, it could cause an accident.
It could, although I think banana leaves are quite soft, right?
That's true.
Look, in South Africa, we've got people who plant ferns and lilies and all kinds of other things, water lilies. People have put all kinds of things into potholes. I think it's hilarious. What I think is even better, though, is if the local residents actually fix the pothole, which has also happened occasionally in South Africa.
Yep. And if big insurance companies get involved and decide to go on a pothole repair streak, which we've spoken about 2 or 3 times
And
before.
we've given them full credit for that. I think that's one of the best things that the insurance companies have done in South Africa, and I'm proud of them for doing it.
Me too. So the next story, Gareth, is airbags. Airbags were introduced or patented in 1971.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long time ago. Mercedes-Benz claims to be the first car to have employed the safety device 10 years after the patent. So the 1981 S-Class Mercedes apparently had the first airbag.
Right.
So what Mercedes-Benz have done in order to celebrate the humble airbag is they've decided to recycle used airbags and make clothing out of these recycled airbags. So you can buy yourself clothing, bags out of these recycled airbags. And well, I'm pretty sure these things are going to become valuable because it's only out of recycled airbags. But I don't think they look very nice.
Look, here's the clothing you're talking about. It looks horrendous. Who's going to drive around in this? That's the outfit.
Well, it looks like a hazmat suit, and those are pretty in at the moment.
That's
true. Not my idea of forward fashion, but who the hell am I to argue? If they say it'll save lives, there are probably people who would want to put that on. I mean, some people will do anything just to prolong their lives, you know. If you're going to walk around in that, I think it's also pretty uncomfortable. It must be very hot.
Who doesn't breathe?
If you're petrified of being in an accident, you know, it's always the irony though that you'll put on your hazmat suit with airbags in it. And then on that day, you'll be fine. But the day you forget to put it on is the day you'll have an accident.
The thing is, you don't know black people. We're going to swag that thing out, George. We're going to get that thing. Yeah. You're going to see it. We're going to get the LV bag that goes across the front. We're going to have that. That's also airbag. You don't know us. And we're going to be wearing that, by the way, to a pool party. That's not just us driving. We're swagging that thing out. Plus, it's Mercedes. Yo, pushy Mercedes.
There's only one way you would wear that airbag, Mbulelo, and that's if it was a BMW.
Oh, yeah. No, that's true. Good point.
That's right. Okay, very good.
And now here's an interesting story, and this is apparently true. Confirmation can't be got from Ford, but I don't know if you remember in 1994, and I don't know why everything seems to lead to this family. Okay.
Yeah.
In 1994, there was a famous car chase, a car chase of O.J. Simpson.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yes.
O.J. Simpson was driving the legendary, or became Bronco. Yes, the Ford Bronco, and that car chase put O.J. Simpson's Bronco, or the Bronco, on the map.
Yes.
And my comment was, why does everything lead back to the Kardashians? I just don't understand it. Anyway. Ford, at the beginning of lockdown, couldn't manufacture enough cars because the silicon chip shortage started to impact them. So the new Ford Bronco, which I sent you a link for, the new Ford Bronco was suffering and is still suffering from the inability of Ford to make the numbers. So unhappy customers would express themselves to Ford dealerships. And guess what Ford has decided to do in order to appease these customers? They've decided to offer a $1,000 kitty for every car dealership to dip into to buy those unhappy customers an alcoholic beverage of their choice.
Ooh, that's going to be controversial.
And a little bit close to drinking and driving, but apparently Ford has got this kitty that allows them to dip into alcoholic beverages for their customers.
I don't see a problem with that, but I think a lot of other people will. If you buy a certain car, you should. I reckon if someone threw in a great deal about like buy my car and get a gun, I'd be like, yeah, I'll buy that car just for the free gun. But some manufacturers would not be comfortable with that, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I think by and large, drinking and driving too close together there.
I thought you were going to build up to the point where you'd say to us, if you buy a Ford Bronco, you get OJ to come and visit your house and murder your wife, and you get a Kardashian as your next wife. That would
Or
not.
you
That
get
would
the
be
other glove. Yeah, you should get the other glove with the Bronco.
if the glove does not fit, you must acquit. That's right. Imagine OJ in an ad. Now that would be brave. You see, this is where, like, I wish ad agencies or I wish companies which were advertising, that they had a bit of let's say chutzpah. Because if you got, hi, I'm O.J. Simpson, and I made the Ford Bronco famous. I also made murder famous. If you don't buy a Bronco, I could come murder you. Now that would be a funny ad.
You know what? You're right. It's not the agencies because they've thought of that. They just
So they
the pitch wasn't accepted.
Well, no. I mean, there's a local chicken making company that gets this right quite often. They should visit that company's agency.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. All right. What else you got for us?
Sticking with Ford, sadly, Ford has decided to end its manufacturing facilities in India as it's taken a $2 billion loss in the last 10 years. Ford just can't seem to compete with the likes of Suzuki and Hyundai in India, where the market is more geared towards more cost-effective cars.
Sure. Okay. Well, it's sad news for India, but maybe it means they'll bring some of it here. So India's losses may be our gain. We can only hope.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Ford's quite popular here, especially the the Ford Buckies and 4x4s and double cabs. They're very popular. I mean, they're in the top 3 most searched for vehicles on Auto Trader. For the last who knows how long. So we're big Ford fans in South Africa. I don't see Ford going anywhere, to be honest. From South Africa. And here's a piece of technology, Gareth. We might in the future get a rear view mirror. Now, there's a company that has been manufacturing rear view mirrors, the auto dimming rear view mirrors, and you get rear view mirrors where you can push a button and you can program it to open your garage. And this company's name is little known to be Gentex, and they manufacture rear view mirrors for many OEMs. But they're looking at bringing out a rear view mirror that can capture your iris. And you can imagine the possibilities if a rear view mirror can capture your iris, a biometric feature within your car.
So there's a version of it on the screen at the moment. So you would basically get into your car, and in order to start your car, it would need to recognize you. And then the internal computer would switch on, and all your preferences would come up, like your music and your navigation and everything else, and your car would be able to interact with you properly. It's kind of like facial recognition in your phone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to become more and more difficult over time to steal cars, to break into them, to do anything with them, because you have to have the human in order to do anything with that car.
Well, I think that's probably one of the things I love about cars at the moment is how technologically advanced they are. I mean, they're magnificent machines, whether you prefer the ICE engine or you like the electric vehicles. And then they also have these incredible systems inside them, which have just made travel a very high-tech experience. It's great. Even the cheapest car around now, George, I keep saying this, even the cheapest car around now has got more technology and more electronic and electric advancement in it than the best car 10 years ago.
Probably more than the shuttle that went to the moon.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And you know what's quite cool about that, George, is I think where it might go, even if they do hijack you, let's say hijacking happens, is that perhaps the tech by that time will be so good that they'll see when you're startled. It can pick up through your iris, because we know through dilation we can pick up the sort of human state. That'd be an awesome safety feature as well. Not
exactly
just
drinking and driving, being able to tell your state of mind, maybe.
Yeah.
In terms of
if you're feeling sleepy, like there are those cars that have the ability to kind of wake you up, shudder, make the seat shudder, make the seat shudder, make the steering wheel vibrate.
I'm sorry,
or whatever.
darling. Sorry to wake you up like this, but I made the sheet shudder last night.
Just one last thing before you go, George, and before all of us get stuck into our weekend. This is a picture of Kim Jong-un at the big parade in North Korea. yesterday, which of course is, it's their big moment to shine. They spend about 3/4 of their budget on this big military parade to show how extremely successful they are as a country, even though people are eating their own babies in the streets because they're so hungry. Here's Kim Jong-un, though. I think Donald Trump had a tremendous influence on Kim Jong-un. He's looking tanned. He's looking fit. He's not as fat as he was. He's dressed in a nice suit. I think that we can credit Donald Trump with this. Look here. Tell me that doesn't look a little Trumpian to you.
You're actually right, especially if you compare him to his hand color and his arm color.
Right.
He's
a little orange.
definitely gone for just the face tan.
I'm telling you, it's Donald Trump's influence on Kim Jong-un. He's westernized him. He's wearing a suit and tie.
That is too funny.
He's looking tanned. This is a good influence, a long-lasting influence of the Donald Trump regime. So well done to him on that front. Let's give credit where it's due. All right, everybody, have a happy weekend. Thank you, George. Mbulelo and Leigh-Ann and I will see you on Monday morning, bright and early. Have an excellent weekend and be good. If you're not, you know what you have to do. You have to take photos. Cheers.